Okay. Lord, thank you.
Okay. Okay. This is like a little bit like talking about exercise to football players or something, because you guys know so much more about pain than I do. But we're going to give it a shot. David asked me to do a presentation on living with chronic pain that has not been successfully addressed in other ways. So what I did was I've pulled together some things from articles, and one of those was strategies developed by people with CP, by the way. And then I've mixed in a little bit of my own personal experience, because I had a herniated disc about 15 years ago. And it certainly gave me a flavor of what living with chronic pain was like, because it was agony for a very long time. And so being somebody who's been in the healthcare field for a long time, I started off trying to do some of the traditional healthcare things. And I can't remember who it was who talked about the medications that they gave you for pain knocking you out, but that was the case that I ran into. So it was clear I had to do something different. So I took a deep breath and walked on the alternative side. And I have to say that it helped me much more than anything else that I would have done. So we've thrown in a little bit of alternative too. Just because I am a teacher and stuff, I always like to define things. And all you had to do was listen this morning. I mean, all of you, I think, or many of you, if most of you, live with pain of one sort or another. And that certainly makes sense if you think about the fact that many of you have had surgeries, you've had procedures, your muscles pull in a different way, your joints are formed in different ways. Many of you spend long hours sitting. And so those are the kinds of things over time that certainly give us what we call chronic long-term pain. And in the purest definition, they say you don't know what causes the pain. I suspect many of you have a good handle on perhaps what causes your pain, more so than what they talk about when they talk about chronic pain in pain clinics. And I will tell you guys that one thing that is really, if nothing else has come across to the physicians, they do understand that you have pain now. And there has been a nice series of articles out of the University of Washington, Joyce Engel, Mark Jensen, and I'm going to forget the others, but there's a couple of others who've worked with them. And they were sort of the keynote people to kick off this whole issue, and I think their first paper was in 2001 maybe. And since then, there have been multiple studies done around the world looking at adults with CP, and it is very clear that you guys have real significant pain. And so if you got nothing else across to the docs, that point is there, and they are aware of it. And so one of the special issues for you folks is, what can you do about it? Because living with it is no fun. I mean, it affects everything you do. It affects your mood. It affects whether or not you want to be around people. So there are lots and lots of concerns. And if you look at what people say about pain, and it's real interesting to read this stuff, having kind of been there a little bit myself, because one of the issues that they talk about is the fact that chronic pain manages you. You don't manage the pain. And if you let it manage you, that's when you feel the pain the most. So the big issue is to get on top of the pain with whatever strategy it takes and use it so that you control the pain rather than letting it control you. And that's one of those statements that sounds so easy and I think is so hard to do. But that is kind of the message, if you will, from the medical community. And I had a doc at one point say to me, you have to make friends with your pain. And I looked at him and I said, what? What are you talking about? You know, it's like, how do you make friends with pain? But his point was well taken. And when I got to the point where I could say, okay, I'm not going to get rid of this. It is with me for a while until I have surgery. And if I'd known then that I was going to have surgery with pain long after surgery, I might not have done the surgery at all. And so you have to, I think, at some point, at least for me, what worked was saying, okay, it's here, it's not going away, I got to figure out how to live with this. And that really was a turning point for me. Now, again, my pain over time decreased, and now I only have it when I spend more than 5 hours on the computer at a time, which is a lot of days, but I know how to stop it if I had the brains to get up and stop doing the things that I want to do. And so, again, knowing that it's not going anywhere, knowing that you're going to have to live with it, I think is a good starting place to trying to get a handle on it. And that's a very hard thing to say. It's an easy thing to say. It's a very hard thing to do, I think. And for those of us who are getting older, and this year was 62, and I can tell you that if I sit for the ride in the plane up here, getting up from the seat was a lot harder than it used to be. So, as we get older, certainly the pain stuff is going to be there. And for you guys, much more than the pain stuff is going to get worse as you get older, and that is one of the things that we do know from the CP literature. Not trying to be depressing here. And I think, again, for you guys, there are so many sources of pain. We talked about dental work the other day, dental pain, and the dental literature. They're very aware. Dentists are pretty cool folks because they know a lot more things and they write about things a lot sooner than some of the other healthcare professionals. But you've got any of you who've had bony surgery, 1 out of 5 bony surgeries develops arthritis over time. If you still have a plate in place, that can do it. If you're in a wheelchair and your equipment doesn't fit, if the cushion is out of shape, if you have certain tires and you go over rough terrain, that can set off spasms or pain that's with you for a while. All kinds of things. I mean, you have so many possibilities for why you hurt that it makes it, again, a bit more of a challenge to try and get a handle on it and be helpful. So what I tried to do today, again, was to pull together some ideas for pain management strategies. But before I share those, I'd like to know what works for you. Because we heard a lot of pain this morning. And so I think some of you do things or know things that help you feel less painful. So let's take a few minutes and just talk about what those strategies might be. Christine.
I think the pool helps a lot to exercise your muscles. I know for me that I don't have pain when I swim.
Okay, so swimming. And I would add, and Christine and I talked about this yesterday, she swims in a colder pool. What did we say, 88? I'm very fortunate in Birmingham. The Lakeshore Foundation is there, which is one of the Paralympic training sites. And their indoor pool is 92 degrees. And I have several adults that I swim with CP. And they get into that pool. And I have one guy who never stops moving. He gets into the pool, and it's like he turns into just a floating noodle. Nothing moves. He just lays there and he can just lay there for the whole hour and just lay there. And if we didn't have to get him out, he'd be fine. So the pool certainly has made a difference. Somebody else? Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
As I said, once I turned 40, I started to have a lot more problems with my hip and my piriformis. One of the things I've done is started back with physical therapy. I do pretty aggressive stretching routine and TENS and heat, and I also have a standing frame, which I got about a year ago, which I use daily in my office for maybe 25 minutes a day, but that definitely helps stretch everything that's tight. It also helps with weight bearing for bone density and that kind of thing. Massage has also helped a lot. But I'm still looking for other things that could work.
Certainly the standing frame in terms of having a position change, I think, is what you're talking about. And that really is one of the things that, for people who stay in one position for a long time, then being able to change positions makes a big difference. Interesting that you said massage. Did you go to a massage therapist? Okay. And then you said heat. And a few years ago at one of these meetings, there was a fellow here who talked about the big thing for him was getting into a hot bathtub and sitting and soaking, that made a real big difference. Morris. And then over here, Morris.
Yeah, I also get a massage once a week, and that helps tremendously with my muscle. And also I have a lot of pain behind my right shoulder. So I use electric cream. It's called clip1, it's kind of like Bengay, but that also give me a lot of relief.
Is that an over-the-counter medication that you Maurice is saying he uses a cream on his shoulder that helps relax him. Is it an over-the-counter cream?
Yeah.
Okay. What was the name again?
It's called Foul. And let him do more. You can only get it and let him. In a space store.
In a specialty store.
Business.
Oh, a Spanish store. Okay, so it's only sold in Hispanic stores. Okay, interesting. But that's been helpful. Okay, so we got another vote for massage and warm. Okay, I'm going to get you, son, first, and I'll come back to you, Ellen.
Use hot patch or pain relief ointment like Bengay pretty much every single day. I know it is not a permanent treatment, but it relieves my pain tentatively.
Okay, so you use an ointment as well, and you like the Bengay. Okay. And the other one that was mentioned was a TENS. I don't know if any of you use TENS, but those are things that are also used by a lot of therapists. Okay, Ellen?
I really knew would work a long time ago. I am not so about right now, but